Every competitive league believes the same thing, that dominance has a shelf life, that pressure eventually evens things out, that no one stays on top once the league figures them out. Prime. Michael Jordan was the moment that belief died. Not because he won too much, not because he scored too easily, but because the league realized something far more unsettling. They weren't getting closer. They were just running out of explanations. Early on, everything felt normal. The crowd was loud, the defense was physical, the talking never stopped. Hands checked, bodies bumped, eyes locked. It felt competitive. And that's what made it dangerous. Because Jordan wasn't responding to any of it. He wasn't trying to overpower defenders. He wasn't trying to intimidate them. He wasn't trying to prove anything. He was operating from somewhere else entirely. Jordan understood something most competitors never do. Pressure only works on people who are still negotiating with outcomes. Jordan never negotiated. He arrived already decided. That single difference changed the meaning of every possession. The first few minutes of games always fooled people. Jordan passed the ball. He moved without urgency. He let teammates initiate. To the crowd, it looked patient. To the defender guarding him, it felt wrong. Because resistance expects reaction. Reaction validates effort. Jordan refused to validate anything. No escalation, no emotional exchange, no acknowledgement of contact. He observed. And being observed by someone who isn't reacting is unsettling, because it means the exchange isn't equal. Jordan wasn't fighting defenders, he was measuring them. He watched who reached early, who leaned instead of sliding, who talked after contact, who looked at the bench after mistakes. Those details matter, because confidence doesn't talk. Fear does. Jordan learned early that fear shows up before it admits itself, and once he saw fear, the game slowed down. Not for everyone. For him. Defenders started guarding the idea of Jordan instead of the reality. They backed up half a step. They hesitated on closeouts. They reached when they should have stayed disciplined. Jordan punished margins. Not loudly. Precisely. A pull-up jumper when space appeared. A drive when help arrived late. A pass when pressure came too early. Nothing dramatic. Just correct. Correctness repeated is devastating because it removes hope. Hope survives on unpredictability. Jordan removed unpredictability. By the end of this first quarter, resistance already felt expensive, not physically, mentally. Effort without feedback drains faster than effort with conflict. Jordan gave no feedback, no reaction, no frustration, no visible emotion, just outcomes. The defender guarding him wasn't losing a matchup, he was losing certainty. And once certainty disappears, decision-making collapses. Jordan understood that basketball isn't about speed, it's about timing. And timing belongs to whoever controls belief. By the second quarter, the defense changed. Not on the whiteboard, in the body. Closeouts softened. Help defense arrived early. Then late. Rotations widened just enough to matter. These weren't mistakes, they were hesitations. Hesitation is the body admitting uncertainty before the mind does. Jordan attacked hesitation mercilessly. A jab step when the defender froze. A rise when balance shifted. Net. No celebration. The next possession, the same thing happened. Same pace, same calm, same result. Repetition mattered. Because repetition told defenders this wasn't situational. It was structural. By halftime, something deeper had changed. Coaches weren't talking about solutions. They were talking about containment. Limit the run. Stay solid. Don't foul. That language matters because it reveals belief, and belief was already slipping. Jordan didn't need to hear it. He felt it in the pace of the game. The game slowed, but only for him. He controlled tempo the way great chess players control time, not by moving faster, by forcing others to think longer. Thinking is dangerous. Thinking is where doubt lives. Jordan isolated defenders late in the shot clock. No movement, no disguise, no decoy action, just him and the defender. One-on-one possessions don't allow excuses. No scheme to hide behind, no rotation to blame, no help to save you. Jordan waited, not for movement, for thought. The moment a defender thought, Jordan attacked. A jab, a rise, net. No stare, no reaction, just confirmation. Now resistance wasn't trying to stop him. It was trying not to be exposed. And that's the moment hierarchy forms. Because once competition shifts from winning to avoiding damage, the outcome is already decided. The crowd felt it before the scoreboard showed it. The noise changed. Not louder, heavier. Like everyone understood the ending but still had to watch time catch up. Jordan never rushed the fourth quarter. He never needed to. He slowed it down. Dribble. Pause. Isolation. Every possession felt final. Defenders didn't gamble. They didn't pressure. They hoped. Hope is not a strategy. Jordan punished hope with efficiency. Mid-range jumpers, strong drives, free throws, no chaos, no debate, just inevitability. And that's when the lie collapsed. Effort didn't fail. Pressure didn't fail. Preparation didn't fail. Belief failed. Because belief is the engine of resistance. And once belief dies, competition becomes ceremony. This isn't the story of a game. It's the story of the moment the league realized, this isn't a problem to solve. This is a condition to endure. This is prime. This channel isn't for people who just want highlights. It's for people who want to understand why dominance actually works. If you're watching this because you care about pressure, belief, and the moments where competition collapses from the inside, you already think differently. Most fans watch basketball for entertainment. People here watch it for patterns, for psychology, for standards ESPN never explains. We're building the smartest basketball community on YouTube. If this way of seeing the game feels familiar to you, you don't need convincing. You already know why you're here. Before resistance collapsed, it was confident. That's the part history smooths over. Before Michael Jordan became inevitability, he was confrontation. Every night, the league met him head-on, hard fouls, physical defenders, hands checking every cut, bodies leaning into every drive. Jordan wasn't avoided, he was challenged. And those challenges weren't symbolic, they were personal. Defenders wanted to prove something, not just to Jordan, but to themselves. Because if effort worked, then dominance was negotiable. And early on, Jordan believed that too. He responded the way most elite competitors do. He pushed back, he attacked harder, he forced shots. He tried to win the confrontation emotionally as well as physically. That version of Jordan was spectacular, explosive, uncontained, defiant, but it was still reactive, and reaction gives resistance leverage, because resistance feeds on acknowledgement. Jordan learned that lesson slowly and painfully. Night after night, he scored. Night after night, he lost. Not because he wasn't good enough, but because resistance still believed it could move him, and that belief made defenders reckless. Reckless defenders foul harder. They reach more. They disrupt rhythm. Jordan didn't need more aggression. He needed distance. Distance from the emotional exchange. distance from ego battles, distance from the illusion that effort alone decides outcomes. That realization changed everything. Not suddenly, not publicly, internally. Jordan stopped treating resistance as an enemy. He started treating it as information. Every foul became data. Every reach revealed impatience. Every word revealed insecurity. He stopped responding. And when you stop responding, you start controlling pace. Early possessions became experiments. Jordan passed out of double teams immediately. Not because he had to, because he wanted defenders to feel successful. False success is dangerous. It lowers urgency. It relaxes focus. It convinces opponents they've solved something. Jordan let them believe that, briefly. He moved without the ball, cut through traffic, posted without demanding the entry pass, relocated instead of forcing. To the crowd, it looked unselfish. To defenders, it felt confusing. Because resistance expects confrontation. Jordan gave them ambiguity. Ambiguity forces thinking. Thinking slows reaction. Jordan thrived in that space. He watched carefully. Who reached early? Who leaned instead of sliding? Who fouled out of frustration? Who talked after contact? Talking is rarely confidence. It's usually a request for emotional validation. Jordan refused to give it. He went quiet. Silence in competition is unsettling. Noise creates momentum. Silence creates truth. As games slowed, defenders had time to think. Thinking is dangerous. Thinking is where doubt lives. A defender who is thinking isn't defending. He's negotiating with fear. Jordan felt that hesitation instantly, and once he felt it, he changed gears. Without emotion. Not faster, cleaner. One clean pull-up jumper. No reaction, no stare, no celebration. Just confirmation. The next possession, the same thing happened. Same pace, same balance, same result. Now the defender wasn't guarding Jordan anymore. He was guarding the memory of what had just happened, and memories are heavier than bodies. That's when resistance started turning inward. Help defense arrived early, then stopped arriving at all. Not because teammates didn't care, because nobody wanted to be the one Jordan chose next. Fear isolates people. Jordan exploited that isolation ruthlessly. He slowed possessions down deliberately. Late shot clock, isolation, no movement, no disguise, just him and the defender. One-on-one possessions don't allow excuses. No scheme to hide behind, no rotation to blame, no help to save you. Just you and the truth. Jordan waited, not for movement, for thought. The moment a defender thought, Jordan attacked. A jab step, a rise, net. No emotion. The repetition mattered. Because repetition removes randomness, it proves the outcome isn't luck. By halftime, resistance was already tired, not physically, mentally. Effort without feedback is exhausting. Jordan gave no feedback, no emotional reaction, no visible frustration, no acknowledgement of physicality, just outcomes. That silence created doubt, and doubt is heavier than fatigue. Defenders began protecting themselves, hands lower, feet wider, eyes dropping after mistakes. Self-protection replaced aggression. Jordan noticed immediately. Self-protection creates hesitation, and hesitation creates control. Late in the third quarter, Jordan isolated defenders on purpose, not to embarrass them, to expose decision-making under fear. He attacked only when defenders hesitated, never rushed, never forced. He waited for the smallest break in certainty, and then punished it. Jordan didn't need volume scoring. He needed confirmation. Every made shot confirmed the same truth. Resistance was teaching him how to beat it. And once defenders realized that every attempt to challenge him only gave him more information, something subtle happened. They hesitated, just slightly. But slightly is enough. By the end of this phase, resistance still existed. But it wasn't confident anymore. It was cautious, measured, reactive. And reactive resistance cannot survive against someone who controls pace, belief, and silence. This is the part most people misunderstand. They think physicality wore Jordan down. It didn't. It wore them down. They thought trash talk would rattle him. It revealed insecurity. They believed pressure would disrupt his rhythm. It clarified it. Jordan inverted the equation. Resistance didn't slow him. It accelerated his understanding. He learned defenders faster than they learned him. He learned how long belief lasted, how quickly confidence cracked, how pressure shifted behavior. And once he understood that, resistance became predictable. Predictability is death in competition. Because once behavior stabilizes, outcomes follow. Jordan didn't defeat resistance here. He trained it. He trained defenders to fear their own decisions, trained teams to second-guess effort, trained the league to understand that aggression without belief collapses fast. This was the last era where resistance still believed effort could win. It wouldn't last much longer, because once belief starts cracking, it never returns whole. And Jordan knew it. He felt it. And he was ready for what came next. Some moments don't belong in highlights. They don't need sound. They don't need motion. They don't need explanation. They live in stillness. The pause before the move. The posture before the shot. The calm that tells you the outcome is already decided. Those moments don't hype you up. They anchor you. Because they aren't about what happened. They're about the standard that caused it. That's why certain images don't feel like decoration. They don't motivate. They don't entertain. They hold you accountable. Some reminders aren't meant to be scrolled past. They're meant to stay. There is a precise moment in every era of dominance when resistance stops being an opponent and becomes a habit. It still shows up. It still looks professional. It still follows the rules. But it no longer believes in itself. That's where prime Michael Jordan took the league. And once he did, nothing could be reset. By this stage, resistance still existed on the surface. Teams still played physical. Defenders still talked. Coaches still drew up plans. From the outside, the NBA looked competitive. Underneath, it was hollow. Because resistance was no longer powered by belief. It was powered by obligation. You do certain things not because you think they'll work, but because not doing them feels like surrender. Jordan felt that shift instantly. Belief has weight. Ritual does not. Belief changes posture. Ritual just preserves appearances. The first quarter always followed the same rhythm. Aggression early, bodies bumping, hands checking. Jordan let it happen. He never rushed this phase, because the first quarter was where teams spent whatever belief they had left. They poured it out quickly, hoping something would spark. Jordan conserved. He passed the ball. He moved without urgency. He let teammates initiate. To the crowd, it looked patient. To defenders, it felt unsettling, because resistance expects reaction. Reaction validates effort. Jordan refused to validate anything. No escalation, no retaliation, no emotional exchange. Effort without feedback drains faster than effort with conflict. By the second quarter, the defense began to shift, not tactically, psychologically. Closeouts softened. Help defense arrived early, then late. Rotations widened just enough to matter. These weren't mistakes, they were hesitations. Hesitation is the body admitting uncertainty before the mind does. Jordan punished hesitation mercilessly. A pull-up jumper when a defender backed off half a step. A drive when help arrived a fraction late. A pass when pressure came too early. Nothing dramatic, nothing emotional. Just correct. Correctness repeated. Removes hope. Hope survives on unpredictability. Jordan removed unpredictability. By halftime, the language on benches had changed. Coaches weren't talking about solutions. They were talking about containment. Limit the run. Stay solid. Don't foul. Those are not competitive instructions. They are damage control language. Containment means belief is already gone. Jordan didn't need to hear those conversations. He felt them at the pace of the game. The game slowed, but only for him. He controlled tempo the way great chess players control time, not by moving faster, by forcing others to think longer. Thinking is dangerous. Thinking is where fear lives. Jordan isolated defenders late in the shot clock. No movement, no disguise, no decoy action. Just him. And the defender. One-on-one possessions don't allow excuses. No scheme to hide behind, no rotation to blame, no help to save you. Jordan waited. Not for movement, for thought. The moment a defender thought, Jordan attacked. A jab step, a rise, net. No celebration. The next possession, the same thing happened. Same pace, same calm, same result. Repetition matters because repetition removes randomness. It tells defenders this isn't situational, it's structural. By the third quarter, resistance had turned inward completely. Help defense arrived late, then stopped arriving at all. Not because teammates didn't care, because nobody wanted to be the one Jordan chose. Fear isolates. Jordan exploited that isolation ruthlessly. He attacked seams. He posted deeper. He drew fouls without force. Every possession felt heavier than the last. Because now resistance wasn't protecting defenders, it was exposing them. The crowd felt it too. Not excitement, weight. A heaviness that settles in when inevitability becomes visible. Fourth quarters against Prime Jordan didn't feel like battles. They felt like conclusions being delayed out of courtesy. Jordan never rushed. He slowed the game down even more. Dribble, pause, isolation. No motion, no disguise. Just hierarchy. Defenders didn't gamble. They didn't pressure. They hoped. Hope is not a strategy. Jordan punished hope with efficiency. Mid-range jumpers, strong drives, free throws. No chaos, no debate, just inevitability. This is the moment most people misunderstand. They think resistance ended because teams stopped trying. They didn't. They stopped believing that trying mattered. That distinction changes everything. Belief is the engine of resistance. Once belief collapses, resistance becomes theater. Effort turns professional. Correct. Empty. Jordan didn't end resistance with force. He ended it with clarity by showing opponents exactly where they stood. And once someone sees that position clearly, they cannot unsee it. The damage didn't stop when the game ended. It followed teams into locker rooms. There was no yelling, no panic, no outrage. Because outrage assumes injustice. This felt accurate. They had prepared. They had adjusted. They had tried. And it still wasn't enough. That realization followed them into the next game, into the next matchup, into the next season. Jordan didn't just beat teams. He updated their expectations. Once expectations update, behavior changes. Players stopped attacking mismatches late. They stopped demanding the ball. They stopped improvising. Stars deferred. Not because they were scared, because they were aware. Aware that forcing the issue wouldn't change the ending, it would only attach their name to it. Jordan did something devastating to other stars. He made them choose between competing and preserving identity. And once that choice appears, hierarchy is complete. Front offices felt it too. They stopped building teams to beat Jordan. They built teams to exist around him. Draft boards shifted toward the future. Free agency shifted toward fit. The language changed. Jordan wasn't an opponent anymore. He was a condition, and conditions are not solved. They are endured. That's when belief truly collapsed. Not loudly, not violently, but permanently. There is a final stage of dominance that history almost never documents correctly. Not because it isn't important, but because it's uncomfortable to admit. It's the moment when competition doesn't end with defeat. It ends with acceptance. Not publicly, not ceremonially, not emotionally, internally, silently. For the NBA, that moment arrived when Michael Jordan stopped being treated like a problem to solve and started being treated like a condition to endure. At first, nobody said it out loud, not coaches, not players, not executives, because saying it would mean acknowledging something that undermines the entire mythology of sport. That effort, preparation, intelligence, and adjustment were no longer enough. And once that realization sets in, the league doesn't just lose games, it loses imagination. When the questions lost their purpose. Early in Jordan's rise, the league asked questions with urgency. How do we guard him? Who do we put on him? Where does help come from? How do we make him uncomfortable? Those questions assumed something essential. That answers existed, that the problem was solvable. By the peak of prime Jordan, the questions changed. They became softer, more distant, less tactical. How long will this last? How many years does he have left? What happens after him? Those are not competitive questions, they're temporal ones. You don't ask them about rivals. You ask them about inevitabilities, weather, time, aging. Jordan crossed that line quietly. He wasn't an opponent anymore. He was an environment. And environments don't get beaten. They get endured. The bench knew before the floor. Acceptance never appears on the court first. It appears on the bench. Players on the floor still have adrenaline. They still have assignments. They still have pride. But players on the bench have distance. They see patterns. They saw different defenders try the same things and reach the same endings. They saw different teams bring different energy and leave with the same silence. Slowly, reactions disappeared. No standing after big shots. No eruption after small runs. No urgency in timeouts. Not because people didn't care, because they understood. This wasn't chaos. It was structure. Jordan's structure. And structure does not collapse under effort. It collapses only under time. When stars stopped asserting themselves. The most revealing shift didn't come from role players. It came from stars. The players whose responsibility it was to respond. Late in games, they stopped demanding the ball. Not because they were scared, because they were aware that forcing the issue wouldn't change the ending. It would only attach their name to it. Jordan did something devastating to other stars. He made them choose between competing and preserving identity. And once that choice appears, hierarchy is complete. Because the moment a star protects his image instead of asserting dominance, the contest is already over. Jordan didn't take their moments. He made them give those moments up. The fourth quarter lost its drama, fourth quarters against prime. Jordan didn't feel like battles. They felt like conclusions delayed for formal reasons. The energy wasn't frantic, it was heavy. Jordan didn't rush, he never needed to. He slowed the game down until every possession felt irreversible. Dribble, pause, isolation, no motion, no disguise, no urgency, just hierarchy. Defenders didn't gamble, they didn't pressure, they hoped. Hope is not a strategy. Jordan punished hope with certainty. Mid-range jumpers, strong drives, free throws. Nothing spectacular, nothing emotional, just inevitable. The crowd didn't explode, they nodded. Recognition replaced surprise, and recognition is the final stage of acceptance. The locker room aftermath. After the final buzzer, the real damage settled in. In locker rooms, there was no shouting, no panic, no outrage. Because outrage assumes injustice, this felt accurate. They had prepared, they had adjusted, they had tried, and it still wasn't enough. That realization followed teams into the next game, into the next matchup, into the next season. Jordan didn't just beat teams, he reset their expectations. Once expectations reset, behavior changes. Players stopped taking risks late. They stopped attacking mismatches. They stopped improvising. They played safe. Safe basketball does not defeat inevitability. Jordan thrived against safety, because safety is hesitation disguised as discipline. The league stopped inventing. Eventually, something subtle but permanent happened. The league stopped innovating for Jordan. Not officially, but practically. Teams recycled old schemes. They reused old principles. Because invention requires belief that something new might work. And belief was gone. Instead, the league waited. Waited for age. Waited for injury. Waited for time. Jordan turned the NBA into a waiting room, and as long as he stayed prime, no one's number was getting called. Why this was bigger than championships. Championships prove greatness. This proved finality. Jordan didn't just win. He closed futures. He removed the idea that competition was still open. That is the highest form of dominance. Not beating opponents, but removing their imagination. Once imagination disappears, resistance has no fuel. And without fuel, it dies quietly. The silent agreement. By the end of this phase, the league shared an unspoken understanding. We will compete. We will prepare. But we understand the hierarchy. And once hierarchy is accepted, competition becomes formal, professional, predictable. Jordan didn't need fear anymore. He had recognition. Recognition that outcomes were stable. Recognition that standards were unequal. Recognition that effort no longer shifted reality. The final acceptance. Resistance didn't end with a final shot. It ended when effort became ritual, when intensity became habit instead of belief, when the league stopped pretending resistance changed outcomes. That's when it died. Quietly. Completely. Prime. Michael Jordan wasn't just a player. He was a condition, a standard so absolute that it forced everyone else to update reality. And once reality updates, there is no going back. That was the climax. Not the ring, not the trophy, not the celebration. But the moment the league internally accepted, this is not ours to solve. And when that belief settles in, competition doesn't lose loudly. It disappears. Prime was never about winning. It was about ending debate. Michael Jordan didn't dominate because he tried harder. He dominated because he never negotiated with reality. While others searched for answers, he removed the question. While others relied on emotion, he relied on standards. That mindset doesn't belong to basketball. It belongs to anyone who understands that real dominance is quiet, repeatable, and unforgiving. Some people look for motivation, others look for clarity. This channel is for the second group. We don't study highlights here. We study pressure. We study belief. We study the moment competition collapses before the scoreboard shows it. We're building the smartest basketball community on YouTube. Not the loudest, not the biggest, but the one that understands how greatness actually works. If this episode made sense to you, if you felt the ending before it arrived, you already see the game differently. And people who see it differently don't need convincing. They know. Welcome to Prime.